I'm late to the conversation. I have no idea if I'm going to have a unique take on it or if I'm about to repeat something that some other YouTuber has said way better than I can, but what the hell. This is my channel and I want to talk about my favorite movie of the year. Superman. Kal-El. Clark Kent. An undocumented immigrant. A refugee sent away by his parents for his own safety to a place where he could have a life and a future. Taken in by a kind couple who keep his true identity concealed from the authorities out of fear he'll be taken away. Who grows up to embody the best of our ideals. The details change over time. In some versions, the Kents take Clark to an orphanage where they adopt him as an abandoned child. In others, they claim he's their biological son. Regardless of the specifics, Superman's origins remain relevant today, bordering on prescience. The best writers know that what makes any character special, what keeps readers and audiences coming back, isn't their powers or their abilities, it's their heart. And James Gunn absolutely rose to the occasion. This isn't a Superman answering the call of a noble lineage, or struggling under the burden of power, afraid to lose control even for a moment, or looking down at us like a god, the fate of innocent people at the mercy of his whims. In 2025, James Gunn and David Corenswet have reminded us, to paraphrase the DC animated universe, what the world needs isn't a Superman, just a good one. Welcome to the workshop. My name is Paul, aka Wordmaker. When I first heard that James Gunn would be directing the new Superman movie, I was intrigued. As more details came out, I found myself going back and forth in my feelings. The casting? Spot on. Nicholas Hoult is a fantastic actor, and even before we saw the first images or trailers, I could picture him as Lex Luthor. I'd seen Rachel Brosnahan in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and she radiated the perfect Lois Lane energy. As for David Corenswet, I hadn't seen him in anything before, but he certainly looked the part. Early images letting us see the new costume were a bit more of a mixed bag for me. I wasn't initially sold on the bulkier, looser suit, and I still much prefer the open neck design over the high collar look. But the colors were nice and bright, and the key thing that I locked in on, the trunks were back.
Bonus, he's actually wearing a costume like he's not embarrassed to be in a superhero movie for once.
Even better, we soon learned that a lot of the thinking that went into the design of the suit was that Superman wants people, especially kids, to not be afraid of him. Then the first teaser dropped. Just a motion poster, but, well, if you haven't seen my reaction.
Tears. Actual tears. I can't wait for Thursday.
And even then, I was being outed as the discount store John Williams. I think I'd missed any announcements about the film's music. The original Superman score, for me, will always be the Superman theme. I never clicked with the Hans Zimmer score from Man of Steel, so this small piece was how I learned that Gunn was going to use the John Williams theme in the movie. It filled me with joy and hope that this was going to be the kind of movie that could give us a Superman worth believing in again. The teaser dropped 4 days later, and the internet exploded. I had a tiny little fledgling channel, but the buzz around this trailer was strong enough to skyrocket the view count on my reaction video. To date, it has close to 94,000 views, over 450 comments, and was the video that took me past 500 subscribers. On that note, please do subscribe if you haven't already and share the video. It really does help. Superman made more than $616 million at the box office. So while it hasn't quite matched Man of Steel's numbers, it's safe to call it a hit, and the sequel, Man of Tomorrow, is already slated for release in July 2027. Needless to say, I loved it. I'm looking forward to seeing more of this Superman and more of this new world Gunn is crafting. It's not a hot take to say that a big part of the movie's success is Corenswet's performance as Superman. The kind of man he is and what he represents. In today's world where soulless AI slop fed by theft and environmental harm floods the internet, where cruelty and bigotry are often the goals in and of themselves, kindness and vulnerability really are the most punk rock things we have. So let's get to work. James Gunn really shot for the moon with a significant change to Superman's lore by giving his Kryptonian parents' motives closer to a Viltrumite than what we're used to seeing in comics, movies, and TV shows. While Clark grew up thinking his parents had sent him here to serve and protect the people of Earth, we learn at the end of the movie's first act that in fact they had sent him here because they believed humans would be an easy race to subjugate. Now, the notion of Kryptonians in general being authoritarian and conquerors is not new. We've seen it many times. But Jor-El and Laura Lorvan have almost universally been depicted as wise, benevolent people who want their son to be the light that guides humanity to greater heights. Of course, those versions also typically establish Superman as one of the first, if not the first, true superhero. So, at the time of his arrival in those stories, the world is without such a protector. And in many stories, Superman is portrayed as the inspirational catalyst for the emergence of superheroes in the world. Gunn's movie quickly establishes that this world has known superpowered beings for 300 years. There are multiple active superheroes, and their activities are so commonplace that people will watch and take pictures of a kaiju rampage instead of panicking and fleeing, much like how people in the real world will casually observe firefighters dealing with a burning building. This left Gunn some freedom to play around with the formula, and while it proved to be a controversial decision, it brought with it a fresh idea for Superman. Although Clark believed he had been sent to Earth to do good and help people, the undamaged half of the message makes this feel more grounded in that Clark himself is free to decide how he will carry out that good work. He doesn't believe he's been sent with the specific mission of lifting humanity to greatness, rather to do the most good in whatever way he sees fit. This is a small but important decision. The revelation of the full, restored message then turns Clark's purpose entirely on its head. It doesn't change his initial motives in becoming Superman, but from a top-level narrative analysis, Clark is now defined entirely by his own choices and beliefs, not the legacy of his heritage. Everything we need to know about who Superman is, everything that matters about him, can be read from his actions alone. The movie is constantly showing us ways in which Clark stands out as someone different than the world around him. The notion of Superman being outdated or a product of a more naive time isn't a bug, but rather a feature of the character.
I'm here to fight for truth and justice in the American way.
You're going to end up fighting every elected official in this country.
Superman is supposed to remind us of the best that we can be, even in a world that is more often than not cruel and cynical. The movie uses a number of methods to show us his pure, good-natured personality, from his language,
Golly.
to his food choices.
I am making you your favorite. Breakfast for dinner.
That's your favorite.
To the thing I want to talk about in this segment, his comparison to the Justice Gang. As I mentioned earlier, one of the things that sets the new DCU apart from other live-action versions of Superman is that he's coming into a world where superheroes already exist as an accepted part of daily life. In the Snyderverse, Superman mostly butts heads with other heroes until the inevitable third act team-up. But James Gunn takes the opportunity to show us not only how Superman interacts with established heroes as colleagues, but also to contrast his approach with that of the corporate control team of Green Lantern, Hawkgirl, and Mr. Terrific. By the time they arrive to help with the kaiju fight, we've already seen Superman focus his efforts not on harming the creature, but on containing it and drawing its attention to him. Superman gets stomped on and blasted with fire because he can take it. When he hits the creature, it's to stun and daze it, but he also makes sure not to let it fall into the building or step on people. The creature is a problem and people are in danger, but Superman is largely preventing it from causing much harm. The camera movements are steady and graceful. The wide shots give us a complete view of events, almost as if the edges of the screen are a set of walls with which Superman is containing the beast. It's telling then that as soon as the Justice Gang get involved, things get out of control fast. The camera starts moving faster, using tilted, offset angles, giving a sense of chaos, We get hectic close-ups signifying the gang's more limited command of the situation. When Superman tells Mr. Terrific that he's been trying to remove the creature without killing it, we learn three things. The first is that Superman sees this as an innocent animal, likely confused and scared. Farm boys do know about handling spooked animals after all. Second, Superman has been pulling his punches. He probably could have killed the creature or removed it in a brutal fashion, but Superman wants to protect everyone and do so by causing as little harm as possible. The third thing we learn is that Mr. Terrific and the rest of the Justice Gang just want to get the job done as easily as possible. No concerns about trying to keep the thing alive. The Justice Gang becomes so focused on killing the creature that Superman is relegated to damage control, saving people, and the squirrel, can't forget the squirrel, from the havoc caused by their much more reckless strategy. Even once Mr. Terrific kills it, it's Superman who is left to catch it and set it down somewhere safe before it crushes people. Superman does admit that killing the creature may have been the only option, but he'd hoped for a less painful method than blowing up its insides. He's clearly affected by the lack of empathy shown by the Justice Gang. Meanwhile, Guy Gardner has been chewing that same piece of gum the entire time. In the aftermath, Superman makes sure the children who are up to him are okay, while Guy awaits praise and touts the Lord Tech Company line like a YouTuber giving a sponsor shout-out. I don't have any sponsors, so no shout-outs from me. Unless the Justice Gang is the picture of corporate PR. They argue over the team's name like they're in a marketing meeting. They hang out in the cavernous Hall of Justice, unpacked boxes scattered about, scaffolding up against the wall, promotional posters lying in the background of shots. It's a ridiculously wasteful amount of unused and purposeless space for a team of 3 people, though it also indicates that things are unfinished. This team, despite the experience and abilities of its members, isn't yet ready to become the Justice League that we know it one day will be. For now, the Justice Gang is shallow. It's a creation of focus groups and corporate interests. Guy Gardner epitomizes this kind of faux heroic corporate enterprise. He is vain but insecure, constantly putting forward a masculine bravado, but immediately defensive once criticized.
That haircut should be against your vows.
That what? That what should be what?
He's so concerned with image that he won't allow Rex to join the team solely based on his appearance, until it turns out Rex really likes the name Justice Gang, so that feeds his ego. Out of the 3 of them, only Mr. Terrific is swayed by Lois's plea to help save Superman. And even in that, he still tries to insist the reason he's doing it is to get under Guy's skin. Sure, we can see that he's conflicted, and he does show the most compassion out of the 3 when Clark learns the truth about his Kryptonian parents. So we can take from this that he is, at least in part, driven by altruism and loyalty to his friend, but he's still trying to cover up those feelings. As an audience, we are used to seeing Superman as a very strong, confident, masculine figure, stoic in the face of danger, but still kind and gentle. A father figure, a stalwart protector, as indestructible in spirit as he is in body. All of those are valid ways to portray him. But it's just as valid that Gunn chose to portray this Superman as someone who can be vulnerable, not just emotionally, but physically too. He's still fairly new at this. He's only been active for 3 years, so it's nice to see a less experienced, less confident take on the character. It's not for nothing that this Superman spends the entire movie getting his ass beat over and over. Even when he's facing something that can't physically hurt him like the kaiju, his suit gets worn and scorched. This then becomes a mirror for his emotional state when his parents' full message is revealed, symbolizing the damage done to Superman's very concept of his own identity and purpose on Earth. I want to draw particular attention to the interview scene between Clark and Lois. It's the first of 2 emotionally intimate scenes the pair get. I love them both, but the interview is a masterclass of character writing. Lois is pragmatic, probing, a touch cynical. Focused on how Superman's actions could be misconstrued in a broader political climate, she's clearly the superior reporter because Clark isn't remotely prepared for the questions she asks. For his part, Clark is cocky at first, overly confident in his ability to keep his identity secret, while maintaining a steady stream of softball interviews with himself. His confidence immediately starts to crack, however, the moment he agrees to the interview. But he presses ahead, stepping into his Superman persona with a physical and tonal shift that feels like it must be an homage to the classic Christopher Reeve transition from Clark to Superman. And in minutes, Lois has him completely flustered. We see that Superman has never considered that his actions could be misinterpreted or have negative consequences, leading to this.
People were going to die!
He snaps. He yells at Lois. We get a moment, and we can see he realizes he's crossed the line. This is an important character beat. It's obviously not okay to raise your voice to an intimate partner like this. And Clark knows it. He knows he's made a mistake, and he pulls himself back. He waits for Lois to take the lead then, letting her decide if she wants to keep the interview going. Though at this point, it's really become more of an argument dressed up as an interview, with the pair of them sniping at each other until Clark eventually leaves. There are two key things I want to say about this scene. The first is that arguments like this, Clark's outbursts aside, are okay. They happen. They're not the end of the world. And while it definitely is an emotional low point, the movie doesn't treat it like the end of the world. This isn't a big breakup scene. The second is how Lois reacts to Clark snapping at her. She can see she struck a nerve, sure, but she's not apologetic for it. And more importantly, she doesn't so much as flinch. She's not afraid of him. She feels safe enough around Clark to confront him, to hold him accountable, and to have no defensive reaction when he snaps. I'm not sure enough people understand what a big deal this is. According to YouTube's analytics, 95% of my audience is men, with most being across the very broad age range from 18 to 54. So I am specifically addressing you guys here. Trust me when I tell you, the greatest compliment a woman could ever give you is to say that you make them feel safe. According to data from unwomen.org, 60% of female homicides happen at the hands of a family member or intimate partner. A regular guy with a beer gut and a bad back can make a woman feel scared with no effort. Superman could snap an old person's spine like a toothpick, and there would be nothing they could do about it. But when Clark raises his voice to Lois, she doesn't flinch. She doesn't go into a fear response. She doesn't pull away or try to appease him. She knows that she can just wait, let him compose himself, without the fear that he might hurt her. If you're thinking that she's not afraid of her boyfriend is a weird thing to hold up as a sign of a good man, I wish it weren't so important. There's a reason most women pick the bear guys. The bar for being considered a good man is literally on the ground. Contrast this to Lex Luthor. Almost everyone around him is afraid of him. When he loses his cool, his employees scramble to follow his orders and avoid getting in line of fire. When Rex heals Superman, the other prisoners are so afraid of how Luthor will react that they try to alert the guards and stop him. What's interesting is that both Superman and Lex are motivated by their insecurities. Lex is full of rage, ego, and petty jealousy. He considers himself one of the greatest minds in history, but that isn't enough for him, so long as someone like Superman is around. The presence of Superman in the world doesn't inspire him to be a better person, or even to try and prove he's superior in any particular way. Instead, he decides that all of humanity's achievements are made redundant by Superman's very existence. And the only way for any human effort to be worthwhile is to remove Superman from the equation entirely. Superman could not be more different. He exudes a dorky energy when he's trying to convince Lois that he's not bothered by his detractors or that he's got good taste in music.
But my mom says I'm cool.
But he is most concerned about people believing that he is genuine when he says he wants to help and do good. His insecurities about being seen as a threat lead him to go out of his way to be as authentic and non-threatening as possible, culminating in his impassioned speech to Lex.
And that's my greatest strength.
By this point in the movie, his ultimate argument is that, yes, he fucks up. But fucking up doesn't make him weak. It makes him stronger because he owns those choices and keeps trying to do better. This was a gamble of a move. A Superman who complains about his girlfriend not seeing how much good he was doing could easily have fallen into nice guy syndrome. And guys watching, I am telling you this now. Being a nice guy is the antithesis to being a good man. Nice guys have an agenda. Most usually it's, I'll get the girl because I've earned her. It's performative, immature, and self-centered. A good man, on the other hand, is patient, gentle, and genuine. And while he may want to impress a woman, or a man, or an MB, he won't be a dick if he gets turned down. We also see in the movie that Clark isn't just naturally gifted with kindness and decency. While we don't get a massive amount of time with his Earth parents, the time we do get is wonderful and heartwarming, and it's clear that his kindness and decency are things he learned from them. In most cases, not all, because not all kids have dads, the first place that a boy learns to be a man is from his father. And this Jonathan Kent is one of the best movie dads I've seen. Unashamed in his emotions, wise and humble enough to know that parents don't get to control what their kids do with their lives, and fiercely proud of his son. The challenges of patriarchy and misogyny are generational issues, and it will take a generational effort to solve them. The good news is that each of us can make the choice to rise above our mistakes and be better. We don't have to be the person we were when we were younger, or maintain the prejudice and bias of our ancestors. We can be better now and help the next generation to be better still. And we don't need a Superman to do it. Just enough good ones.
Maybe that's the real punk rock.
Also, come on, Clark. 3 months in, and it takes your girlfriend rescuing you from a pocket universe to take her to see the folks? At least she gets to make a good impression. Superman is a cultural icon, the hero of heroes. In 1,000 years, his stories will be studied the way we study Arthurian legend, the Trials of Heracles, or Journey to the West. I don't think Zack Snyder ever really understood the character. Superman is not special because he can bench press a truck or shoot lasers from his eyes. He isn't a hero because he decides the world is worth saving. He's special because it doesn't occur to him to be anything other than good. I think his story's in good hands, and I'm so glad that there are going to be so many kids for whom this will be their first Superman. Thanks for watching. So that video was recorded in December last year. This is obviously not the original outro I had planned because that one refers to stuff I was working on at the end of December. It was originally meant to come out before my video on Violent Night, but things got turned around and everything, and I shifted my schedule. Then life happened. This was a video I at first wasn't sure I was going to finish, but I'm having now finished it. I'm really glad I did. I'm really happy with it. I think it's hopefully saying something, valid and meaningful. So by now, my reaction video to the Masters of the Universe trailer has gone up. I'm going to start working on a script on, actually on the original cartoon and why the theme song being used in the score is significant to me. And I think it indicates potentially how the movie might be structured. Hopefully. I'm not entirely certain, but yeah. So better late than never, I guess. Hope you all enjoyed it. And I'm probably now going to go grab some tea, and a bunch of trailers dropped for the Super Bowl, I think. So I'm going to see what ones there are. I think there's one for Masters of the Universe. So great. I'll check those out too. I'll get to work on that. And in the meantime, remember, back up your arguments. Cite your sources. I'll see you next time. Wordmaker out.